You've probably heard the term pop culture. Maybe you've heard the term mass culture. I think it's a good idea to criticize mass culture, but I think that mass culture and the criticism of mass culture is slightly undermined when we don't have our premises of judgment firmly established. Now, one popular invocation for what constitutes justice in society is if your framing for what is right and what is wrong is predicated upon a sense that the majority is always good. When something experiences majority favor, it is the right thing, it is the true thing. And that might also feed quite easily into thoughts of equality, which is to say, one person's opinion, one person's existence, even, um, is not better than another person's. And so, if you want to find out what constitutes proper judgment, it isn't to find the person with the best mind, the most refined and studied tastes, the most unusual but unconventional and illuminating insight or perspective. No, the only way to judge something is if it has majority approval. It becomes a matter of mere number. Now, that's something that we are trained as members of democratic societies to believe. This is habituated into our thought and the commonly expressed perspectives. This is still typically a basis that we adopt when we even criticize aspects about our culture. You can criticize pop culture from the angle that it promotes things that are to the detriment of all human beings. You can, you know, say that society could be better on the basis that every single person equally could experience a better culture if it were not for the fact that we have this tendency to reward um, very bad aspects about ourselves, and that these are the bad aspects that become popular and animate pop culture, things like that. And it's not to say that, sentiment such as that lacks all truth and there's nothing real behind it. But it's worth considering, are we maybe hindered in our ability to criticize pop culture when we yield to those premises? What if the criticism about what's wrong with society goes deeper than that? And I find one thinker who has a great criticism of majority rule and majority opinion. And I've made one video about majority opinion um, by Tocqueville, but I want to read a short passage that is in chapter 2, volume 2 of Democracy in America by Alexis de Tocqueville. And it goes like this. In the principle of equality, I very clearly discern two tendencies, the one leading the mind of every man to untried thoughts, the other inclined to prohibit him from thinking at all. And I perceive how, under the dominion of certain laws, democracy would extinguish that liberty of the mind to which a democratic social condition is favorable, so that, after having broken all the bondage once imposed on it by ranks or by men, the human mind would be closely fettered to the general will of the greatest number. The absolute power of the majority were to be if the absolute power of the majority were to be substituted by democratic nations for all the different powers which checked or retarded overmuch the energy of individual minds, the evil would only have changed its symptoms. Men would not have found the means of independent life. They would simply have invented, no easy task, a new dress for servitude. There is, and I cannot repeat it too often, there is in this matter for profound reflection, for those who look on freedom as a holy thing and who hate not only the despot but despotism. For myself, when I feel the hand of power lie heavy on my brow, I care but little to know who oppresses me, and I am not the more disposed to pass beneath the yoke because it is held out to me by the arms of a million of men. If you are not somebody who thinks or identifies with the majority, what difference is there to be ruled over by a single person versus to be ruled over by a million people? This is a question that Alexis de Tocqueville would like for us to think. So if you've watched this video, you probably haven't. Um, but if you've watched this video, you might notice This is not edited in such a way as to really keep your attention. I honestly don't care to do that. That seems like it would be using energy to do something um, really ridiculous. Now, maybe that will change. The more videos I make, I'll become dehumanized by the algorithm. But um, the stuff you see on your phone when you pull it out, it's like Mr. Beast thumbnails and people who are doing these A/B testing and putting their face like, and a portrait, and it's somebody's ass or something like that. What if this were a society where, when Tocqueville, for example, is writing in 1830, that's a literate society. Okay, he's like highbrow, so he's an intellectual. Okay, this, and he's reflecting on what is emerging and what's going to compose this mass society that you find when you look to the right of me on your YouTube feed, when the algorithm provides you with slop, and where your language then for critiquing it isn't even fully individual. It's still mimetic. It's like, I'm getting YouTube slop. I'm getting this kind of slop from YouTube. Oh, I'm slop maxing. I'm dumb pilled. I'm that kind of thing. Okay, this sucks. I don't know about you. I don't want to go outside and talk to people because if they're under the age of like 38, they're cooked. Look, I'm even using those words now. They're done. They're donezo. I mean, if you walk around this earth and you haven't read a book, you don't know how to have like a real thought about anything. You're clearly, your brain is full of stuff that isn't true or is totally ignorant. You speak in like your education for how to go through life has come from looking at crap that these exploitative media mechanisms have been designed to feed the lowest common denominator. If you're that sort of person, you got to change, or we got to start thinking about what to do with you. That's really it. Democracy in America. Alexis de Tocqueville writes this, and he's contemplating the inevitability of democracy. He isn't wholly critical of it. There are things about it he views as right and proper, but he's skeptical. He thinks that it has to become incorporated into the world system, um, with some thought and care behind it. It can't just be a totally mad and unleashed march. But when I first read Democracy in America, I was struck with the thought that his interpretation has since passed. It has come from an era where there's, to be democratic was to be open minded. Now I think to be democratic is to be closed minded because democracy itself has promoted a culture of closed mindedness. This has torn apart our politics. This has torn apart our media. Everything now that is everything that you see in the world is like a commentary on the mass political battle that the West is in, um, if not the whole world. And so it's like everybody speaks from one vantage point. Everybody is speaking from one sort of mind. We're all looking at the same thing, and we have to come up with something that speaks to the hive mind. That's the culture that we live in. If you deviate from it, which it seems totally natural to me that you would deviate from it, if you deviate from it, you're screwed. You are instantly going to be um, like off out and out of sync, and there's not much society for you to live with. There's not many people for you to have a social life with or to inflect off of and things like that. There are disparate souls out there trying to find community online. That's one thing, but we're still all kind of poisoned by the memes, by the stuff, the mechanisms, or the stuff that this mechanism promotes for us. And nevertheless, we're still alienated from the majority culture, and it's really hard to get away from that. And it's hard to even get to make any money at all if you're not a part of this system. Like for example, if you make content online, for example, you can do this, what I'm doing right now, or which is like not going to get any views, will not be important to anybody. Or you make the slop. You just try to rig and break the algorithm. And what is that? feed to the world. And I don't think that a single person, like the creators and whatnot, Mr. Beast is not to be beheaded for having done this, but um, at the very least, it's useful to take a step back and think, what the shit is this? What the hell? This is nonsense. And then the people who are totally okay with it, I feel like they compose at this point a separate species of person. Like they are not. There's something else going on in that mind. It's like if democracy was facilitated by intellectuals who felt oppressed by the ancien regime of France, Voltaire, Diderot, the encyclopedists, even Rousseau. If and if there were some kind of emergent elite in the United States that felt that the policy of the crown in England, in Great Britain, was oppressive, they wanted to devise a new system that would take that specific boot off of their face. And in doing so, they theoretically liberated everybody. Now, this was something that unfolded in stages, and to this day, we're still kind of unsure what it means for every person to be free. But to the extent that people have gained freedoms over time, it's worth asking who around us has wasted this stuff? Like, who around us seems like they would have never figured out how to create the democratic world if left to their own devices? It's just worth thinking about. And the reason I bring that up is because, particularly if there's a technological component to this, if the technological manufacturers, the people who own the algorithms and whatnot, they have at least insight into how these mechanisms work, they might start to find, at least for them, an economic difference between themselves and everybody else. But if they're becoming extremely wealthy and whatnot, I mean, they would have the means to be like, wow, I am a tech oligarch and I must occupy a separate caste from society because these people are not doing much at all and they're not creating mechanisms that provide them with value. Like, okay, that's one way of drawing a distinction. But what about the people who have no money? Like, what can you do? What do you do? Do you bend over for market forces? Do you What do you do? You can't really influence the state. And anybody who does influence the state, by the way, like, let me put it in plain terms, if you get involved in politics, you are screwed. You are screwed. It is, firstly, it's very dangerous. I don't need to go into why we know that. It just is. But if you get into politics, you have to start expressing a partisan perspective that makes a ton of people, millions of people, instantly hate you and want to kill you. I mean, if we had a society where we were supposed to gain like greater deliberation in policy making and in culture, where this country, the United States, comes out of the Protestant Revolution, it comes out of the printing press revolution, we're going to think for ourselves and how we relate to nature and how we relate to society. And we're going to create, buildings and towns and cities with capitals where we're going to all go in and collectively deliberate over what is best. And we're going to pursue this end with the aim of arriving at truth and sophisticated interpretations for how to live. I don't know if we've, I don't know if we're, I don't think we have that anymore. Firstly, the majority of the electorate, the people who vote and have a significant role in this system, are totally disengaged. They're zonked out. Okay, they get angry at the idea that they have to stop and think about something. What's the effect of this then? Then cynically, a donor class kind of props up people who are running their campaigns with the end of winning an election, not necessarily promoting something that is good for society. And they can't lead either way. If they get too pretentious, for example, um, that's that's not political. Like, that's bad politics. So don't try to speak towards something that's higher than the tribal moment we're in. Feed into it, okay? Fuel it, put fire on it, and Lord knows what this will do to the world. But do it. Feed the masses. So I don't view this as fully the fault of um, oligarchs and the donor class even. It's like the people, the public likes this. They like it. Um, so it's what it is. But what do you do if you don't like it? What do? You can't go out and start your own city. You can't create your own laws. Nobody's allowed to do that. The system is locked in because it's a part of, like the post 1945 world order, as an example. We are locked into these norms. These enormously overwhelming mass democracies are seen as the only legitimate possible arrangement for a state. Money has built up on legitimizing this stuff. What do you do? What do you do? How do you deal with it?